The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome. I'm going to regret this.
I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And this is the Church Planter Podcast, brought to you by Church Planter Magazine.
Hey guys, have you heard of Logos Bible Software? Well, if you haven't, you need to check it out. If you haven't, you've been living under a rock because they're the biggest software company for biblical tools on the market, and for good reason. They've got everything that you need at your fingertips. We're talking maps, concordances, word studies, original languages. I mean, everything you need is Charles Spurgeon Library, Charles Simeon Library, Joseph H. Parker. Oh, wait, that's Larry H. Parker's brother, isn't it? No, Joseph Parker. I mean, we're talking like huge library systems on there, like the complete massive works that themselves could run up to 1K. And it's all there. You can buy expansion packages like a video game. LogosBibleSoftware.com. Head on over there. Tell them Pete and Peyton sent you.
Actually, just tell them Peyton sent you. I don't want to take any credit for this.
Yeah. You know, I'm used to taking blame as a church planter, not credit. So I'm good with that.
Well, you know. So you had anything new happen to you this last week that we need to discuss on the podcast?
You know I do. You know, I have new things happen, but I don't remember them often nowadays.
Well, I don't quite know how to take that.
Well, you know, I did actually go teach a marriage retreat with Andrea last weekend. They put me up.
Really?
Yeah, they put me up.
Really? With your marriage, they had you teach it?
They did. They did. Now, they're podcast listeners, which was kind of cool. So I got an invite. They did not ask you to come.
Dude, I don't get asked for anything at all. It's like, Pete, you almost killed me twice with my asthma. Other than that, that's it. That's all.
That is not true. They ask for, can I come to your house and watch your giant TV?
Who? Who's asked that?
Jerry.
Okay, one guy in 6 years has taken me up on that.
Ruben has asked you to be his pastor.
No, he hasn't asked me. He's told me.
Barry has asked you to let you point a gun, or let him point a gun at you. Actually, he just did that.
Yeah, he just went ahead with it.
Yeah. And let's see, there was one other thing someone asked. People ask you to go to the shooting range. So, I mean, you can't see no one asks you anything.
Who asked me to go to the shooting range?
You know.
Yeah, exactly. You making it up.
No.
I think so.
PP. Those are his initials. I'm just saying.
He didn't ask. I asked him. I'm like, I need a friend.
Oh, that's different. Okay,
I need a friend. Can you come with me? I need a friend.
Listen, guys, this is like a Sadie Hawkins appeal on behalf of Pete Mitchell. If you haven't asked Pete to do anything, you need to ask Pete.
You know what I think is funny?
He needs a Sadie Hawkins for anything, not for a dance. He won't dance. You know, I missed the opportunity on our last podcast to tell you how much I loved you, just because it was Valentine's Day. I don't know how I let that go without making you feel super uncomfortable.
Have you noticed how we announced on the last podcast, hey, we're probably going to be canceling this podcast? And no one reached out to us and said, no!
Because they don't take us serious. That's why.
They didn't care. They're like, I'll go on to the next podcast.
Yeah, whatever.
I hear that In the Trenches one is pretty good. I'm going to go over there. See ya, losers. That's pretty much what our audience says.
Did I tell you that I got my daughter into that old 90s song? Because this is my United States of whatever. So yeah. she had this, like, not a sleepover, but like some party with a bunch of 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds. They all came over to the house, and they were all putting music on and dancing to it. My daughter put on that song, United States of whatever, which Dad corrupted her with. And my wife, I wasn't there because if my house gets invaded by girls, I'm out. Like, I'm out of there. And so I come home. My wife goes, "You've corrupted our daughter." She put that song on, and it's very punk sounding. And she was dancing, going nuts to it. And she said literally that her friends begged her in pain and agony, writhing on the ground, to please make the music stop. That was a proud moment for me as a dad.
That's awesome.
Not gonna lie.
What are you doing?
Talking to my secret friend.
It's kind of annoying.
I have imaginary friends as a grown man. Don't judge.
You should have
everyone thought
no
it was
other
cute
friends before me.
Jimmy, what's his name? Oh, listen now. What's his name? Jimmy Stewart. When he had a giant imaginary friend, they made a movie about it, but I have it and everybody thinks I'm crazy. What's up with that?
Okay.
What happened to you this week, Pete?
Nothing. Not a thing.
No, you went to Solvang.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah.
What happens in Solvang stays in Solvang.
No, so I was really, really sick, and I still have a touch of it. Friday and Saturday, I basically just spent both days in bed. And that's tough for me because Saturday I had a gun training, and I couldn't even go to it. That's how sick I was.
What?
I know.
That's really sick, Pete.
That's when you know, okay, it's legit. When Pete's not going to his I think it was handgun training is what that one was.
Whoa, dude.
And so we were supposed to drive up to San Francisco on starting on Saturday. We were going to break it up. And so I was too sick to go. Sunday, still too sick. Monday, we decided, well, we got these rooms reserved in Solvang. Let's just go ahead and go up a day early to Solvang and just, have a little mini vacation. Kids are miserable. And I think the reason why we have so many is because misery loves company. And so every parent tries to get their non-parental friends to have kids so that way they can join the misery. That's all I'm saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they had good Danishes, though, right?
I guess.
What do you mean, you guess?
I mean, I'm not really a Danish kind of a guy.
Well, who is? But I mean, they're Danishes.
Apparently
Nobody expects anything.
Apparently
big
the
of
Dens
Danish.
are.
Well, I mean, I've never been to Denmark, but I mean, you don't hear a lot about them. It's not like they have a bunch of like
sheep and Danishes.
national product. I mean,
That's the only two things they got, sheep and
what
Danishes.
do you do? Well, that's it. Like, what do you do when you're in this tiny country and you don't have a lot that you make or are able to make that's unique? It's not like you're France and you can make wine. It's not like you're German. You can make brats. You're Denmark. And you're like, hey, you know what? Like, let's make a pastry and put jam in it. We'll name it after a country. It'll be called a Danish. And that'll put us on the map. Like, that's all you got, man. Like, that's okay,
I guess.
You don't got windmills. You got wooden shoes. You
I'm trying
you
to
don't
figure
got the
out your
Swedish
sweatshirt.
chef.
What is your sweatshirt, man?
Dude, you're grumpy, man. Is my sweatshirt getting on your nerves?
No, I'm like, is this a communist thing? You got some red patch with a horse and a star up in the corner on a.
I think you're thinking the Nation of Islam with the star on it.
and you're wearing a camo, and it looks like
mooning.
it's it actually looks quite soft from where I'm at.
It's actually quite snuggly.
Yeah, I mean,
Say.
it kind of looks like that.
Yeah, I got a Deftone sweatshirt on. So you're seeing the White Pony album logo on my sweatshirt.
Okay, it totally looks like a communist thing. I'm just saying, you look like a commie.
It's funny. Well, it is a red patch, and it is a camo. I guess I do look like Fidel Castro's long lost white nephew, but
you should be like, hey, look, I'm the special forces for Cuba, because right now that's what you look like.
I'm special forces for new metal and hardcore, man.
I guess.
I come in the name of Chi.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, Solving wasn't. I mean, it was. I don't know. I mean, we were like so happy to be home yesterday. Like as soon as we got up,
you're sick. That's why you're so. See, you got latent grumpiness. You're sick. A sick Pete's a grumpy Pete for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm getting it now.
Absolutely.
What's up with your sweatshirt?
What's
up with that scar on your nose, man?
I thought you just went commie on me. That's all. I just like the word commie. I'm just gonna start calling you commie.
Everybody's a commie.
Well, I mean, you know, you are.
But that's if you start hanging out with those gun club people. You start being like, who's the guy on The Big Lebowski? The big dude, like Roseanne's Tom Arnold. Remember his character?
I don't know what his name was.
Tom Arnold. What's that guy's name again?
I know who you're talking about. Dan
You got
Aykroyd.
to watch
No.
it. Dan. Yeah,
Is that
Dan.
his name? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah, you got to watch.
Doesn't
you
he
gotta
get
watch
shot?
Yes.
Okay.
He's all locked and loaded. His guns. He's going to bring his guns to everything. But after a while, man, you go to the gun range all the time. Everybody's a commie, right? Doesn't that kind of happen? Doesn't paranoia start creeping in the more you start shooting guns?
Well, some paranoia is totally justified. Like, I'll give you a great example. You brought this up.
I did, didn't I?
Did you see the twinkle in my eye? Did you see the twinkle in my eye?
It's my fault every time.
All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, if we're going to go down this path.
It's like all of a sudden you come to life. See, I had to resuscitate you. That's the only way I need to do it. It was like, do I give him out the mouth or do I not? If I give him out the mouth, I have to kiss him, but it'll bring him back to life. That was like my dilemma just then. But there we go. You're back.
So California passed this law that you have to register your home-built firearms. And every gun person has said since 1960, it was either 63 or 68 when they first required that guns be serialized. Everyone has said, well, look, registration leads to confiscation. That's registration just leads to confiscation. And I'm not kidding you, man. The videos are flooding the internet. We are watching cops come and confiscate the guns that you just registered.
Whoa.
In California. And
wow.
It's like, dude, registration leads to confiscation.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Not only is it a violation of the Fifth Amendment, which our state hasn't given a rip about the amendments in, 50 years. But, registration leads to confiscation. So I'm just saying, man, we are entering the commie phase. It's a
weird time in America. We do seem to have kind of like a communism light right now. I mean, it's interesting because anytime, okay, so to get political for a second, by the way, guys, if you tune in, yes, we will get to the church planning talk. But this is Smack Talk. We do this every week, and we just talk about life and make fun of each other, and, pop culture, things in the news. And the thing that to me is staggering is that most of the things that you're hearing, like I watch YouTube, and I'll watch a lot of the stuff. I don't watch the news, but I'll watch stuff on YouTube. Because I can kind of pick and I'm going to listen to this now and I'm going to watch this subject and it's by this liberal outlet and then there's this right wing outlet or there's this middle of the ground or independent. I like being able to choose because I know the slant, but also I don't want to watch a whole news program. So it's quick in and out, whatever. But one of the things right now this is what I don't think people realize about socialist agendas, because it's very popular with young people. Whenever you go socialism, what you're saying is, I am handing the control of whatever I want to socialize to the government, right? I'm handing more of my freedom and more of my control away. They go hand in hand. Socialism is not part of it. It eliminates your choice, really. And so what's happening right now is with the huge push right now from certain quarters in our political system to socialize, and they're saying in 20 years, not in the next 10 years, but probably in the next 20 years, this will be a very present reality for America. Because as this generation grows older, gets a little more responsibility perhaps, they will either grow out of it or not. And in that case, we will have more of a nanny state. And the thing is, we just saw what happened when we hand the government our health care. I warned about this. I was saying way back then, hey, I just came from a country where the healthcare is socialized. And Scandinavian nations are starting to privatize it because it's a mess. Britain did it out of necessity. It's not working well. It doesn't work well. But the scariest thing for an American is that once you socialize any sector, you give up complete control to the government. And our healthcare is not, after everything that's gone down, it's not, our healthcare is worse, far worse than it was. And that's as a healthcare insider, as an RN, understanding the system from the inside out. It's not a better system. We never dealt with the corruption caused by the insurance companies. Instead, the government just said, hey, there's a piece of the pie. We'll take that.
Well, see, and I think you're making an assumption that's not warranted. You're saying the corruption in the insurance companies. I'd say the corruption in the medical practices. Like my daughter had to go to the urgent care on Sunday.
I'm not making that assumption. The corruption in the medical.
Let me
is
explain
legit.
it. Let me explain why you're wrong on that. Here's the reason why you're wrong. My wife had to take our daughter to the urgent care on Sunday. And that's because we don't have insurance, because it just got out of control. And I just said, I'm not paying that anymore. We're now part of one of these group medical things where it's like, the Christians and we all band together. I don't really know what it is. I just know it literally cost me less than half of what insurance cost me.
Right.
But it also means I got to pay the first $500 of any problem that we have, which is, whatever, not a big deal.
Yeah.
So, wife goes into urgent care with the daughter. And the doctor goes, well, we could do a chest x-ray, but since you're self-pay, that's $300. There's no freaking way a chest x-ray costs $300. It's because they know they got insurance companies to pay for it. So let's go ahead and bump up all of our prices because we got someone else to pay for it. It's not the end user who's paying for it. And that's the problem with all of this stuff. Whenever you start passing the buck from the individual, you lose competitiveness in the marketplace. They don't have to be competitive. I mean, There's literally a schedule of fees that are considered acceptable. So that means that's what they get to charge, and they're going to charge that. They're going to max that out. And the problem with, there's many problems, as you've pointed out, with government running all that stuff. But one of the biggies that I see, you're basically endorsing slavery again. Because what happens when the government totally socializes Medicare or medicine? Well, then they're going to decide what everyone can make.
Correct.
And then you got the
problem. And that will eventually be what happens.
Well, but the problem with that is, okay, but it's costing me hundreds of thousands of dollars to get my medical license.
Right.
Now you've taken away my whole incentive.
Yeah.
Because I can't make enough money to even pay all of that back, and the whole thing collapses.
Right.
Yet again.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's what's happening with you're not telling me anything that wasn't included in my first statement, which is the insurance system is causing the problem on both sides.
Sure. I'd agree with that.
So, if we didn't have the middleman, you would just walk in and the medical people wouldn't have as much reason because they get stung as well by this stuff. So, it's almost kind of like, well, if you're going to raise this from the insurance, and we as a hospital are going to raise this.
Yeah.
They're both trying to come out ahead. And so when Bush, before 9/11, Bush's platform, if you remember, was healthcare reform. And that was going to be the focus of his presidency. He said, look, we've got to disentangle this. We've got to start making laws to curtail the corruption in this industry, because all the burden now is being placed on the government to pay for this, like Medi-Cal and all that kind of stuff. And if we just went in for where the problem is happening, we would save the government tons of money. And that was the original plan. It was healthcare reform. So here we have socialized medicine with no reform. That's what we got. But only now the government gets a big chunk of it. Yeah. So, I mean, people were just blind on that, because if you say over and over, Scandinavian nations, they love Europeans, they love it. No, they don't. And it doesn't work. And they come here when they have serious problems, or they used to. We'll see what starts happening.
Right.
We haven't got the backlogs yet that they have. Like for me, I'm on a PPO, and I'll tell you what, it's a different world on a PPO as opposed to not having a PPO. It's a big deal. So private pay, you get different service. But if you're on one of these HMOs, you're screwed.
I would actually disagree with you that you're screwed when you're on an HMO. From a guy who's been an insider in the business, I've been a benefits manager, and I've been on HMOs, PPOs, POSs. I've been on all of it. If you know how to use the HMO properly, I think it's a phenomenal tool. The whole idea behind it was
it used to be. It used to be.
No, not even used to be.
Anymore. I think
you
the
just have
HMO,
to go get the referral. And the problem is most people don't want to have to go get the referral. They don't want to have to go to their doctor. They want to just be able to go anywhere. And I get that.
You have to go about 3 times on average now in an HMO to get a referral. It's really hard now. Let's say you
just get a better doctor. Doctors don't give a rip. They just hear you, whatever.
Yeah.
Go to the next
so
one.
anyways, hey, this conversation though is degrading into a talk that I really I'm bored with this conversation. so
let's actually talk then about the wall.
Let's talk about church planning. How about that?
I thought we were going to talk about the wall. I wanted to talk about the wall.
I wasn't going to talk about the wall.
No, I got a comment on that though. It ties in with what we just talked about, but in a nice way. You know how everyone's like, you got the two sides of, oh, we need to build a wall. No, we can't build a wall. I mean, that's whatever the reasons are for either side. Honestly, I look at that whole thing and I'm like, everyone is missing the whole point. Like they got us all focused on a stinking wall when the wall is totally not the issue. The issue is you're stealing our money and giving it to other people in the form of welfare programs. That's why they want a wall. If you would stop stealing people's money, I don't think anyone would give a rip. Come across the border, whatever. That's the problem is the taxation. And it's always been the problem. It's what started this whole country was a tax a tax war, if you will, over the 3% T tax.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's like, okay, we've lost our way. Now we're like, no, we're okay with you stealing our money, but let's build the wall. It's like you missing the whole point.
Oh, the whole system right now is like a bunch of spoiled kids fighting, man. It's
fighting
over
stealing someone else's money.
I feel almost like, like let's say like you got 2 parents, right? And they're fighting and they're throwing things and one person's grabbing the vase saying, I'm taking this vase, and the other person's taking it and smashing it against the wall. And it's like, neither one of us is going to have it. And you're the kid going, why don't you two just grow up? Like, come on. That's how I feel with the political system right now.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely ridiculous.
I think you're right.
I think the average American citizen too feels like, I just want to take both of you guys over my knee and spank you.
I don't know. I think it's kind of amazing.
You get on the left knee, you get on the right knee. It's time for spankings.
I think it's amazing though how they get us to pick a side, because if you notice, like people are very diehard for their side, and I'm like, I don't understand how you could be so diehard for either one of these sides, because I'm with you on that, right? I'd rather just take them back to the woodshed and punish them properly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, how do they get us to like be, I gotta be pro Trump or I gotta be so against Trump? How do they get us to buy in?
The amount of vitriol over this stuff too, brother. I mean, it's insane right now.
It is. Well, 100%. It is. I'd like to start Petey's country. It's my own little country. No taxes, but for our national defense, my only rule is if you're going to be a citizen of Petey land, you have to have a firearm. So it's the Second Amendment just forced. Everyone has to have a firearm because you got to defend us. You are the militia.
Well, on that note, let's move into our topic.
I was trying to give you enough time so you could talk to whoever you were talking to, and clearly
I'm
not pay
about
attention.
to be invaded in this room, so I'm going to have to move my computer because I am training for the Sin Network. And this is my break. I'm not on this session right now. So, but I have a feeling the gentlemen are coming back. So let me just know that at some point in our conversation, I will have to move. So anyways, let's jump into our topic today. Should you cue up the good doctor?
Scott, it's time for this week's topic.
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Yes, it is, my good doctor and Nacho. Appreciate that. Our topic today is assessments. Should you go through a church planting assessment?
Wait, I thought you were going to talk about that homeboy.
Oh, no, not as a topic. That was Smack Talk.
Well, you didn't even get to it in Smack Talk.
Hey, we talked about your stuff.
You said there was enough in there to there's some lessons we need to learn.
I thought
that was topic.
You want to do that as a topic? We'll save assessments for next week. I just had a Smack Talk little tidbit nugget. I want to talk about assessments because he's a Smack Talk conversation.
If you say so. I didn't even think he was worthy of a Smack Talk. But
hey, once we started talking about the Danishes and the Danes, it was all downhill.
All
You knew it was going nowhere. Right. So guys, here's the deal. Going through assessment, should you go through assessment? Is it helpful or not? And so here's the thing, I never went through an assessment. Now, I would say if you can, do. I'll just say that right out the gate so you don't misunderstand and think I'm saying don't go for assessment. I remember being overseas, not knowing I was going to be a church planner, and Acts 29 back, years ago, they were kind of the bomb on assessment. Southern Baptist had boot camp, but everybody was talking about Acts 29. You'd go there for, a day or two, and they would kind of do these round robin interviews with you. And you would get guys to meet with you, and they would either say yay or nay. And at that time in the church planning world, people had strengths. No one was hitting all three. I would say Sin Network today is hitting all three. They're killing it on really 4 areas. They're killing it in assessment. And now I say this, I don't work for them anymore as an employee, right? But they're killing it in assessment. They're killing it in training. And I'm behind the scenes still. I'm still helping revamp the training. So I do have an insider perspective on that. They're killing it on the church planner coaching. And lastly, the 4th element is what's known as planner care. They're killing it on that as well. So they'll send you gift cards and all that cool kind of talked about that before. But really, nobody's hitting all 4 of these different subjects. So it's something that, back when I was planning, there wasn't really the church planning world that we have today where all that stuff was just there. I mean, planners today might take for granted that, I still can't believe what's available for church planners. Because back then, this is how it looked. You were a youth pastor or an assistant pastor, and you went to your pastor and told him, I want to plant a church. And 90% of the times he said, well, have your, clean out your desk by the end of the day. If you're not going to get on board with my vision, then you're in my way. Get out of here. Right. That was 90% of the war stories from the battlefields of church planting. Probably about 10% or less, the guy would say, well, let's come up with a plan, or let's explore that together. Or I'm really happy for you, or you can start a satellite campus or maybe plan out for us. But there are only a few places you could go. So Mac Lake started the Launch Network, which had a really cool assessment. It wasn't quite as robust as it is now. I would say it's the Rolls Royce. You go and you have a preaching assessor. You have a panel that assesses you on your calling, your character. There's a pastoral expert. There's a church planning expert, and you meet, and then there's a marriage and family therapist team that meets with you, and you just, for a couple of days, you get wined and dined and talk through that, and at the end they give you a score. This panel meets together and they score you, and you get a final score on your readiness to plant a church, which is pretty rock and roll. They make you do like a Shark Tank to pitch your vision, and they pick it apart. It's pretty cool. But at the end of the day, the question is, for some of you guys out there, some of the best church planners I know were not assessed. And many of the church planners I know, that failed, they were assessed. So the question is, assessment, is it worth it? Why or why not? And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Should you go through assessment? Yeah or nay?
Oh, well, I love this topic because I'm sure you and I are going to have a difference of opinion on it.
Say on, brother.
It's against who I am as a person for assessments.
Yeah?
Yeah, very much so. I don't believe that they've invented a test yet that can judge the true heart of a man or a woman. And to me, all of this stuff is all heart. Now, I'm not going to say you can't benefit from learning about, yourself on any level, personality wise, your marriage, all that stuff. I believe all that stuff is great. But to have someone assess me and tell me if I can go out and do something, it goes against who I am as a person.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you think if you went through any assessment, you could learn something about yourself?
Oh, like I said, you can always learn about yourself.
Yeah,
absolutely. But the whole idea, of we're going to tell you if you can do this or not, and at the end, we feel that you would be better at, being the right hand man. That's great and all, but I don't believe they've invented the test yet that can judge the true heart of the man or the woman.
Right.
If they can do it or not.
Well, that's a really good point. I have to say that there are times, in fact, I was talking with this group we're training now, and we were talking about assessment. I made the point that there are many people who made it through assessment who shouldn't, right? And I'm not talking about any particular networks assessment or denominations. I've just met guys that have been assessed by their background or brand or denomination, and I think you shouldn't have made it. But again, that's a judgment I'm making. Right? Other people have made a different judgment. So I think you're right in the sense where you won't. Two things. You're always going to need somebody to recognize you externally. Always going to need that. That's actually biblical, right? So you can't, but we're talking assessments now, which is something we've kind of invented, right? So it's not quite the same. You're always going to need someone to send you to a certain degree, somebody somewhere. It doesn't mean every leader you're under is going to want to send you. And if he doesn't send you, you should or shouldn't go based on that. Somebody's I can say this for a fact. Somebody sent me years ago.
Sure.
Now, I may have been sent out, and years later, I'm serving with a guy who is threatened by me, or, for whatever reason, there's tension, and he fires me or tells me, I'll never send you out. That doesn't mean God isn't sending me, right? It just means that's maybe not a good fit for someone who needs to be sending me out. But there's always in the scripture that sense in which there's a sender, there's the laying on of hands and commissioning, a very biblical process. And the assessment, this is kind of the deal. The assessment that happened in the New Testament happened on the field, right? You went with Paul and you got assessed while you were with him. You joined Jesus as one of his 12 and you got assessed as you were doing things. What we've done in many ways is we've taken assessment, put it in a vacuum, made it its own thing before somebody actually does anything, or even before they've been trained. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So then, sometimes I've seen people, like I said, who should not have passed assessments but did, or who didn't pass assessments and should have.
I've known people who didn't pass assessments and should have.
Correct.
Who had histories of being church planters, and yet they still couldn't pass the assessment, which goes back to my point of, I don't believe they've invented a test yet that can judge the true heart of a man or a woman.
Well, and this is the thing. There's definitely no infallible one. I think it's a good safety check. personally. And I think it's really good. There's a couple, let's talk about the strengths before we talk about the weaknesses. The strengths for me are what we already brought up. A, you can learn something about yourself. B, the inclusion of your spouse. There's nowhere that I think that spouses get as much clarity as in a well-built, well-placed assessment where they're coming and the questions being posed to them. It's like going to a counselor. There's issues, but unless you have someone who's trained to bring up the right questions, you often don't discuss those things. But someone who's trained, who knows what questions to ask and why, and knows the strategic purpose for those questions, and maybe even has a strategic plan for that couple to work on things, that's what should come out of assessment. And I would say the SID Network does a pretty good job of that because that's the only one I know from the inside out. So those are a couple things that are real strengths of assessments. I do think they can also be a gate for someone who's maybe thinks they're more ready than they are to just hear the truth. Like, unfortunately, this is one of the things that happens. You know, you have a leader who's going to send a dude and he doesn't prep that dude enough, or maybe he's not good at confrontation. So he doesn't feel like he can tell the guy the truth. So he takes him to assessment and makes the assessment tell him. And that can be okay. You know, it's not great, you know, but sometimes I'd rather have a guy who shouldn't be planting be told and be spared a lot of pain, hardship, and suffering and agony on the other side than someone, you know, kind of like you and I watch Shark Tank. You know how like Mr. Wonderful is always like, you think you're being nice to him, but you're actually being mean to him right now.
Right.
You're not helping him.
Right.
Put him out of his misery. Put Old Yeller down, you know. And some people have an Old Yeller, you know, which they mistake for a call to ministry.
But at the same time, too, I think that, you know, to me, it comes back to if God's called you to do something, you better not let Mr. Wonderful tell you you can't.
Amen.
Because
absolutely,
you've been called by God, not by man. And if you're being called by man,
I think someone who's called by God, Mr. Wonderful doesn't even faze him. You know
I don't know that. I don't know that you could say doesn't faze him. Shouldn't faze him, I believe is the right term. But
that's a better way to put it for sure. You're right. Because I can remember people saying things to me that were very damaging when I was young in ministry by people that were very insecure. And those things lodged in me like a, you know, like Paul says, like a fiery dart. And they just stayed there and burned for years. And as I got older and had more track record behind me, I was able to take those things, evaluate them. They tortured me at first.
Sure.
But who's to say that some of those weren't also very sanctifying? It's kind of like if you ever read The Tale of Three Kings by David Edwards, where he just says, you know what? He goes, all that running from Saul prevented David from becoming a Saul years down the road. And I think to a certain degree, perhaps that guy saw something in me that was maybe a little true. And I needed some of those warnings, and maybe God used that. It's kind of like when David gets Shimei throws the rocks at him and curses him, and David goes, "No, don't kill him. It's the Lord. I know it." You know, who's to say they're in some of that? But now,
I would agree with that. I actually really agree with that, and that's the toughest part. And that's more of a human thing that you have to learn to take everything in. Because you might have a nugget. Like that guy over there might be an idiot, but the arrow that he flings at you could be the one that you need to hear. And that's the tough part. You have to be willing to hear all of that input, but at the same time, you can't turn away from what you've been called to do. Yeah. So you do need to absorb it because yes, there are some things that people are going to say to you. Even the idiots will say it, and it could be the thing that you need to hear. But I think too often it's easier for us to put our trust in someone else.
So
it's
true,
way
dude.
easier just to go, the assessment said I'm a right-hand man. You know, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to help this other guy. I don't have to actually be the leader. You know, sometimes we just do that. It's easier just to blame
So true,
everyone
dude.
else or whatever.
And there's fear with being the number one, with the team leader. Like, you know me, I'm all about team leadership, but team leadership, there's fear in taking lead of that team. Sometimes just more comfortable to be the number two or number three. It doesn't quite work as a hierarchy in a team, but you may not be leading the team. And leading any group of people is scary and risky. But you know, it's funny because as we talk about all these things, you know, someone might see something in you that is a handicap and they point it out, and you need to hear that. Like, think of any athlete who has a coach. You don't actually grow. And I love Lloyd Jones speaking on Hebrews about the discipline of the Lord. It trains you for righteousness. And he says, he has a sermon entitled, if you can get a hold of it, guys, get a hold of it. It's called In God's Gymnasium. And he talks about how that in that passage in Hebrews, so in God's gymnasium, what happens is that we actually, he talks about a coach, how what he used to do is he would make them run naked through the gymnasium in the Roman times, and he would have this rod and he would hit them on the affected area, like if they weren't lifting their calf high enough during some athletic event, or their arms were drooping or at the wrong angle, he'd hit them, he'd correct them with that stick. And they would know, okay, work on my tricep, like flex more when I'm doing this move or hurdling this javelin or whatever it was. And it was really cool. And he did this incredible sermon. But, the cool thing is, through an assessment, it's not that you're damned forever. It's that somebody sees something and says, you got to work on that. And, you and I mean, part of our friendship has been that we have been able to see each other's weaknesses. And even on this podcast, we call them out.
Yeah, except I don't have any weaknesses, but go on with your story. That's great.
I'm Karate Man. We so need that soundbite. Karate Man, no bruise on the outside. But, the thing is that, it's not, they are things that are true, and you have to learn to laugh at them, like laugh at your weaknesses, laugh at those things. Because if you take them too serious, they'll bum you out. You have to laugh at them, acknowledge them, roll with them, and say, you know what, that might be my weakness today. It may not always be my weakness. That might be something that I now I'm aware of it, and I'm able to look at it. And when I'm doing things, that's in the back of my mind now. Maybe that's something I need to work on. And that's a good thing. But the weaknesses of assessment are a couple things that I think, and you really hinted at it, Pete, that when somebody doesn't make it through an assessment, I personally think we still look at the church planner as a one-size-fits-all. And of course, I wrote that book, Church Zero, cha-ching, which was to say church planners come in many shapes and sizes. They just, might be shepherd, might be teacher, these are all guys you're going to have on a church planning team, but they're going to look different and they're going to behave differently. So the church planner I know you and I are both thinking of right now, high prophetic, and can lead people to Jesus every day if he puts himself at that kind of availability without even trying. Guy's so gifted with people that just boom, boom, boom. And he's very winsome, but could he be the lead guy in a church plant? No, he needs an apostolic. In fact, most prophetic leaders need apostolics to actually church plant. They're not very good on their own planning the church. And in fact, most movements like Calvary Chapel, you had Chuck Smith, he was the teacher, but the guy who built it, same with John Wimber, was in both cases a guy named Lonnie Frisbee, who was a major high apostolic calling, and built two movements, actually built three movements out of his apostolic gifting. So, when you're looking at this, what I often see the weakness of assessments is we're only thinking of the pastor-only model when we're assessing. So we're looking for a guy who's a teacher, he's apostolic, he's evangelistic, he's a shepherd, and we wrap it into one, and assessments are built on that. Rather than looking, and this is something funny enough in the Send Network that they're talking about right now, is maybe having this APEST branch. And those are just conversations that are starting because our training is starting to take on that flavor. And so, it's one of those things. And the other weakness is telling people to wait and come back in a defined period of time. Whereas what I think is better is say, hey, go serve with that guy for a year and then come back through. See what you've learned in a year. The last weakness that I see is often we assess people on things we haven't trained them in yet. And that's just, you gotta train people. The fourth thing is what I said at the beginning, and I know I said last, but it just makes me think of it, that the last thing that we have is what we said, that do it on mission. Assessment should happen on mission. So like right now, I got an intern who comes to Refuge Long Beach. I meet with him once a week. He comes to Carlsbad for a day, and we debrief everything he's been doing. And I kind of give him that feedback, but he's in Long Beach and he's in ministry. He's meeting with people all throughout the week. He's on mission with them nonstop. And that's what he does.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts on that?
Mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball.
Because I know you love it.
I do. Well, hey, we are currently revamping the New Breed Network site. If you've never been there, it's newbreednetwork.org. And our assessment, just so you know, when we assess you, we only assess you on your calling and character, first off, which makes it a lot easier. And we help you work through that. Then secondly, we assess you on missional engagement as you're on mission. So that's, again, that real-time strategy. It's not like I've just thought about these things and haven't done anything about it. And then our last, your dog looks cool, by the way, in the background with their ears up like that. But
She's
the
a
last
pit bull.
yeah, she's ready to eat somebody. But then the last thing is, we assess you for your ability to plant out. Are you ready for that? And to me, those three assessments, I've literally taken those from the pages of Acts, where you can see a type of assessment happening at each level on those. And that's what we do.
Cool.
So if you guys want to check that out, I'd say wait a little bit till our new website's up. But if you go through now, it'll be fine. But we got a streamlined process coming in place soon for assessment. So check that out.
I dig it, man.
Hey, if you guys are exponential, by the way, before I let you go, I will be hosting the Micro Bible track with a few other guests, guys you've probably heard of, like Ralph Moore. That is his primary track. Also going to be there with Brad Briscoe. And I'll be hosting the first session between Francis Chan and Ralph Moore. It's going to be an epic discussion between those two guys. Can't wait to hear what they're going to say. But if you want to come see me at Exponential, that's going to be March in Orlando. I'm sure if you don't know about it by now, you're probably not going. But if you're there, look me up. Check out the Micro Bible track on Wednesday and Thursday and come say hello.
Cool. Hey, what do you do, if you've gone through the assessment and you've been determined that you're not a math pastor?
Ooh, a common problem that people have, Pete, what I would say to that is it's always important to go to simplifiedchurch.com. Simplifiedchurch.com and tell them that Peyton and Pete sent you. They'll help you work out all of your bookkeeping needs, your tax IRS compliancy, things like end of the year pay stubs. Kind of a big deal. Hope you did that. If you didn't, not going to have many donors coming up this year. And simplifiedchurch.com. Check them out. Hey, well, this has been Peyton Jones and Pete Mitchell reminding you, if you want to reach the ones nobody's reaching, got to go where nobody's going and do what nobody's doing.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Church Planter Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. We'd love to hear your comments on this episode of the Church Planter Podcast. Visit us online and let us know what you thought at churchplanterpodcast.com. If you subscribe to us via iTunes and have enjoyed the podcast, leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive in iTunes, the more iTunes will promote us to other church planners who would benefit from this show. This podcast is brought to you by the Church Planter Magazine, which is available in the iTunes newsstand or online via churchplantermagazine.com.